Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could teach the gullible to never be so comfortable with lies they eat like comfort food, to disregard the bogus claims and pseudoscientific claims? Can you imagine just how much indeed the world would change? No more political predators playing on the populace, but ilkes and plots to shift and kill metropolis. No more villains with the title in the Bible, holding phony temper Bibles like the stuff they teach is vital. Imagine it was normal to have to prove a claim you make, and folks really feel ashamed expressing content that was fake. It's not to say we never make mistakes, it's just to say we go out of our way to show the evidence it takes.
Remain skeptical while you travel the road, the reason stay strapped with logic and facts. That's what it is, yo. Keep reality intact to help the truth grow. Question every claim, especially the ones you believe in. Remain skeptical while you travel the road, the reason.
Welcome everyone to today's episode of Road to Reason, a skeptic's guide to the 21st century. I'm your host, Larry Mendoza, and with me today we have a new host. First time on the show, his name is Marcelo Arteaga. And I'm going to let Marcelo introduce himself here in a minute, but I just wanted to let you know, today's show we also have coming later on, our guest is Robert Ray, and he is the National Director of an organization called the Original Motto Project, which one of their goals is to try to change our motto from "In God We Trust" back to "A Pluribus Unum" or maybe something else, who knows. We'll have that discussion when we get there. So let me introduce our new host here, Marcelo Arteaga. You want to tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I recently graduated from GW with a major in finance and a minor in psychology. And, working on the finance and real estate area. And, I became an atheist when I was in high school. And, I found it a really intellectually engaging conversation. And I've been working towards, spreading the word through YouTube channels and blogs and, fighting the good fight.
Good. Well, welcome to Road to Reason. We'd love to have you here and help us out. So, all right, before we get into the show, let me give you guys some news. Actually, Marcelo has an interesting news story that I'll let him take the lead on. It has to do with sword fighting and religious tax exemption. Very interesting, huh?
Right. So there's this, where to start? Well, there's this group of libertarians in New Hampshire who are trying to start an intentional community, and many of them are atheists, and they have created this thing called like the sword fighting church. And they see, every once in a week, they go to a pub and they get, into sword fighting. And they are now trying to get tax-exempt status as a church because they have a philosophy and an ideology. And right now they're up front of the New Hampshire Supreme Court trying to argue that they are an organized religion and that they have deep held beliefs and that they wish to be tax exempt.
So what's interesting is what exactly defines religion? Like, how can you become a tax exempt religious institution? What are the criteria, do you know?
Well, one of them is that you have to have members who have a deep held beliefs, basically. That's the general idea of it.
Right.
And as long as you can tell them, have a general philosophy of life, and you can prove that your community are not faking their beliefs, however you're going to do that, then you're technically a religion.
Wow. So it seems like they might have a pretty good case. That'll be interesting to kind of president this sets, huh? I don't know how many groups. It seems like a religion could be anything.
Hey, if the Mormons and the Scientologists can do it, we can do it.
Yeah, so, well, good. Well, I got, another piece of news here that kind of goes along with, like churches. And this one has to do with Washington, D.C., and a church called the United House of Prayer with about 800 congregants. Now, Washington, D.C. wants to install bike lanes along certain roads. And one of these roads happens to be along right in front of this church. And so, there's usually, with anything public like this, there's a political process that you have to go through. And, the board of, the Washington, D.C. Board of Supervisors or whoever they may be, the council, they'd like to take in opinions from the citizens who will be affected by such changes. So when you have, bikes along the roads, of course it's going to affect a lot of parking. You're going to have no parking zones, to allow for the bike lanes and things like that. So there's normally, invested citizens who will come into the meetings and they'll, discuss their views on these issues, and then at the end of the day, the council votes whether to continue or not continue. And so it's a democratic process. It's very open. However, what this church and other churches have done in the past, they sort of want to bypass this whole process, and they want to just come out and straight out and say, no, it violates our religious freedom. And I think this is not the way to go about it, because A, churches don't pay taxes. Other citizens pay taxes. But C, this is not about religious freedom. This is about religious special privilege. And there's a big difference, because I've been seeing this word religious freedom being thrown out a lot. In any case, from the Kim Davis issue to, you cannot violate our due process, you cannot violate our, the other people's rights just because you want to claim religious freedom. It sounds like to me religious freedom these days is a shortcut to get your way. It doesn't matter whose rights are trampled. So, so this is going on, and there's a legal battle happening right now in DC with this, and it'll be interesting to see how it turns out, and because things like this set precedent.
Right.
And it's going to get to the point, well, how far do we take religious freedom? I want to murder something because it's my religious right. I'll do sacrificial, it gets crazy. So we got to have due process.
I hear you, but I just out of something interesting to say about what you're saying. But there are clearly lines, and a good example of it is what you were saying about sacrificial lambs. There was a law on, I want to say Florida, where basically they passed a law that you couldn't slaughter animals without certain types of certification, something to that effect, and basically they passed it because people were complaining about voodoo cults sacrificing animals in Florida. And that law got struck down because they was specifically targeted to try to prohibit them practicing their religion, which, it just comes to show that there's a reasonable argument for organized religion to say that their rights being violated, but there's a perfect example of where they're pushing it and clearly trying to get a preference treatment as opposed to anybody else, right? So, they do have a just cause to say that they want parking, so they go and, people hear their argument and they'll judge based on its merits. Sure. But trying to bypass the process is clearly, not cool.
That's not cool, right. And so anyways, we'll keep an eye on that and we'll see how it turns out. But anyway, so, all right, good. Another something else. Let's move on to every week we have a segment we like to call Atheist of the Week, where we showcase certain atheists who've done something extraordinary, and we like to showcase it. Well, this week I want to talk about actually something that's happened throughout this year, and I want to showcase the 4 or 5 murdered atheist bloggers in Bangladesh, and It's very important, and I think the names of it, one was Dr. Avijit Roy, who was murdered in February, Washikur Rahman, who was murdered in March, Ananta Bijoy Das, who was murdered in May, and then Niloy Chatterjee in August. And what's important to note here is that these people have been murdered, not just murdered, but brutally murdered. They were hacked to death, they were decapitated, their hands cut off, for freedom of expression, only because they were criticizing an idea, and this idea being Islam. And this is not the first time we've seen, people murdered over a criticism of Islam or religion. But certainly, one of the things that strikes me interesting here is that a lot of times when I've talked to kind of the let's get along crowd, even atheists, they point to Bangladesh as being a successful moderate Muslim country where, this is, we can't call Muslims terrorists or evil because look at Bangladesh. They always point to Bangladesh. And so now we see, these people being hacked to death. And it's like, if this is what moderation is, then we have a problem because certainly this is not moderate. So, but I want to, showcase these people, their bravery, and other atheist bloggers throughout the Muslim community who have, that are brave and speak out. And I'm hoping that, this continues, and it's just sad that these people had to die.
Right.
So.
Yeah, no, I actually was I went to an event where they were, making a memorial for them and just like talking about their bravery. And these guys are, just blogging about their ideas and about, the arguments against, theocracy and the dangerous views that Islam has. So for them to be killed just for their ideas, it's just completely ridiculous.
Right.
And I was hearing people speak about it, and apparently they just they stalk them, right? There's groups, organized people who go after them, make sure that they don't get their ideas published by killing them, and it's just absolutely unacceptable.
Well, and what's also interesting about it is that the police departments and the government is telling atheist bloggers to stop it. You don't want to get killed, and stop it. And then, that's the scary part, is that, it's almost like victim blaming, and it's just unbelievable that people have to, have to stop their speech because of being afraid of getting murdered, but also the government's clearly, by saying, hey, you don't want to get killed, and stop, criticizing Islam. That basically is giving these murderers, justification to do it.
Definitely, and I think, I could be making this up, but I think somebody was saying when I this hearsay, I guess, talking about the political aspect of it, and I think the argument was, there's no political incentive for people to help out. Why? Because if something were to get done, it would be because some higher up actually makes an issue out of this, right? And goes and actually persecutes these people and brings them to justice.
Right.
And then what does happen? Well, he doesn't get reelected because there's a bunch of religious people who vote
for him. So
exactly.
So the incentive is not there.
Exactly. So their opposition is going to say, well, clearly he is not on the side of Islam.
Right.
So they get voted out of office. So it's a systemic issue which there's no way to address through the legal process apparently. So you just have a really bad situation.
Well, we're hoping, that eventually things temper out, but, it's almost like a hopeless situation so long as the ideology of Islam continues to be a primary motivator for this stuff. So we'll see. All right, let's move on to our next segment, our joke of the week. I think I got a good one. I think I found a good joke of the week. Okay, and then we're going to go to a break, and we'll come back with Robert Ray. So here's a joke. An atheist buys an ancient Roman Catholic lamp at an auction. So he takes it home and he begins to polish it, at which point a genie comes out of it and says, I'll grant you 3 wishes, okay? And then the atheist says, well, I wish I could believe in you. Genie snaps his fingers and says, ha. And then the atheist goes, oh, I believe in you. And then the atheist says, well, I wish all atheists would believe in genies. So the genie snaps his fingers, and all of a sudden all the atheists all over the world believe in genies now. So the genie goes, okay, what's your 3rd wish? And the atheist says, well, I want $1 billion. And so the genie snaps some fingers and nothing happens. And the atheist goes, well, what's wrong? What happens? The genie shrugs and says, just because you believe in me doesn't mean I exist. All right.
That's really clever.
Okay, all right. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back with Robert Ray, so stay tuned, and we'll see you in a bit.
Homemade noodles. Marty, stop it. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. It reminds me, I've been thinking maybe we should try a new form of birth control. I heard about this one. It's called the IUD, intrauterine device. Or we could try the patch on your arm. Actually, I think that one goes on your butt.
Bedsider.org has birth control information and a lot more. And it's...
What do you think then? Arm or the butt?
There's a lot of tree branches and dry brush over here. We should probably move the bonfire over there.
I'm guessing Smokey liked that idea.
This is Richard Dawkins. Doing commercials is unfamiliar territory for me, but I'm inviting you to watch Road to Reason, a skeptic's guide to the 21st century, on Fairfax Public Access every Sunday. Each week, the hosts tackle wishful thinking, religion, pseudoscience, and the harm they cause, with a combination of facts, humor, and community involvement. They challenge believers to defend their faith and give you, the skeptic, a voice. With live call-ins for viewers and streaming on the World Wide Web, there's never a dull moment. Don't wait. Look at them now on Facebook and YouTube, and remember to watch Road to Reason, a skeptic's guide to the 21st century, or there'll be hell to pay.
Body language can tell you all sorts of things. Like someone is having a stroke. Know the sudden signs. Learn fast. Face drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty. Time to call 911 and get them to a hospital immediately. Learn the body language and spot a stroke fast.
Hi, may I please have an application? Thank you.
Skip the drama. Get your diploma.
Okay.
Take that first step towards a better future. Find free adult education classes at finishyourdiploma.org.
A fact is a piece of information that is true regardless of how you feel or what you think about it. A fact can be demonstrated in the real world through our perceptions and other kinds of evidence. Facts don't just exist in our heads. A belief is an idea someone has about how things are or what they think is true. Beliefs exist 100% in our heads. The main difference between facts and beliefs is that you can change your mind about a belief and voila! It's changed. You can change your mind about a fact, and guess what? Nothing's changed. Beliefs and facts are not the same. They're not equal in logical value. You might feel your beliefs or opinions are as important to you as facts are, but that doesn't mean anyone else is going to. Nor should they, because your beliefs are your beliefs, not anyone else's. Facts, on the other hand, should matter to everyone, because they are real and they can affect anyone's life. Facts are what we use to build knowledge. The only forward progress mankind has made has been on the back of facts. And now you know.
To Road to Reason, Skeptic's Guide to the 21st Century. I'm Larry Mendoza, and this is my co-host,
Marcelo Arteaga.
Marcelo Arteaga. So we're back, and we are going to start our conversation with Robert Ray, who is the National Director for the Original Motto Project. Welcome on the show, Robert.
Hi, thanks. Great to be here.
Awesome. So let's start out with telling us a little bit about yourself and your organization and what you guys do, just as a general broad, and we'll touch upon some of the other more finer points in a bit. But yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization.
So I am a secular activist that lives in Washington State. I run a couple humanist organizations out here and sit on the board of a couple others. The National Motto Project is a organization that is devoted to bringing E Pluribus Unum back as our motto, as our founders intended. We tend to concentrate on city councils and, more recently, sheriff's departments.
So, E Pluribus Unum, why E Pluribus Unum, and what does that really mean for our viewers who may not know?
So, E Pluribus Unum is Latin for out of many one. And the reason we chose E Pluribus Unum as our concept was that put on the first Great Seal of the United States of America. Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, and Benjamin Franklin proposed it the first time, and then it was finally accepted in 1782, and has been on the Great Seal and many other Great Seals ever since.
So, so that's great. But was it ever considered to be an official motto, or was this? And why isn't it a motto today, if that's where it started from?
Sadly, it was never officially our motto. Congress never acted on it, as they should have. It was considered a de facto motto for 175 years until 1956. And thanks to McCarthyism and the Red Scare, the religious right at the time decided we should have a, a more godly motto to stand up against the atheistic communist regime. So they proposed it, and it got voted on and approved.
Oh, wow. So, yes. So
and God We Trust is now officially our motto.
Right. So I guess that begs the question, how is the world going to be able to tell the difference between God-fearing Americans and the godless communists if we change the motto?
Yeah, apparently it worked because, it still is our motto.
Right. So
and the Soviet Union fell apart, and so obviously "In God We Trust" worked.
Well, I mean, now we know God's on our side, right?
God's on our side. Clearly, God's on our side. Because God likes sports events, likes to pick sides, apparently. But
right.
But how did this motto, "In God We Trust," clearly it would appear to me that it is a clear violation of the First Amendment.
Right.
So how did this even? I mean, I know the communists scared, but man, how was this able to pass muster?
So what happened in 1814? Francis Scott Key obviously wrote our national anthem, and in the fourth stanza is the phrase. Let me grab that. I've got that right here. It was, "And this be our motto: In God we trust," or in right. So and that since no one knows the fourth stanza, it's not a big deal. But in 1861, due to the Civil War, a minister wrote the Treasury Secretary and said, we need to show that God is on the side of the Union. And he suggested a more religious motto on our coins, which didn't really have a motto on it yet.
I see.
And then in 1864, the Treasury Secretary went to Congress and got it approved. So ever since 1864, "In God We Trust" has been on at least the 2-cent piece.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's been on and off for a few years here and there. Roosevelt, Teddy Roosevelt, was actually against it being on coins. He felt it was sacrilegious. He was a very pious man.
Sure.
He did not swear on a Bible.
Right. And it would make sense because, at the end of the day, there's always that old saying, money is the root of all evil, and here we have, "In God we trust," right on our money, which is kind of interesting to me from a religious perspective, why they would want that.
Yeah, and oddly enough, I do a lot of searches for "In God We Trust" stuff, and I see that a lot. And I see that, well, why is money so horrible, but, in God We Trust, it's on it. So even some who are incredibly religious find it offensive.
Right.
Right. On the other hand, I think it would be funny, based on, Jesus said, when Jesus was asked about, Romans taking taxes, he said, well, what is the name that comes on the coin? It's like Caesar's names. Well, give unto Caesar what's unto Caesar's.
Right.
And I imagine if that comes around again, it was like, well, give it to the church.
Yeah. Right. Well, yeah. I mean, it's right there. But it's interesting. But I guess one of the things that I've always wondered is how could they have possibly, so I guess on a dollar bill or on the actual bill money, that was when, in 1956 when that happened? Is that correct? When they put "In God We Trust" on the actual bills.
Yeah.
That was 1956.
It was on the bill first, and then it became the motto.
And then okay, so they put it on the bill first, and then it became the motto after that. So how did this manage to pass muster or pass the constitutional First Amendment? Because "In God We Trust" is clearly a religious saying. The part that confuses me is how we were able to slide this by from a constitutional perspective.
Well, during the 50s, no one wanted to stand up to the McCarthyism, right? You would be labeled as a communist and blackballed. So it's pretty easy to see how in that time frame, no one wanted to stand up against it. But later on, say in 1970, we had a federal case that made it to the 9th District Court, Arano versus United States, which Arano had sued, saying that the "In God We Trust" being on currency was unconstitutional because it would coerce him to use money that said something he didn't believe in.
Right.
But the Ninth Circuit, the lower courts basically said that it was a secular logo, that it had been used so often now that it no longer had any religious meaning. And the Ninth Circuit Court agreed that, and even used words like ceremonial deism and tradition and history as part of it. And the Supreme Court chose not to take the case, which basically said, yeah, we agree with that.
That's interesting. So essentially what happened is they secularized this motto so that it would pass constitutional muster.
Right.
That's a very interesting tactic, because my understanding is right now, even in having conversations with David Silverman of the president of American Atheists, and the lawsuits that they've been fighting with, like crosses on the highways to represent dead state troopers and things like that, is that one of the tactics the Christian right is using these days is to secularize religious symbology for the sole purpose of being able to then plaster this all over government buildings, all over everywhere, because now it's considered secular, even though it's an explicitly religious saying. In God we trust. Across the nativity scenes, the Ten Commandments. It's all, and it's not just very inclusive of many religions. It's very these sayings are very strictly, or some of these symbologies, very strictly, Christian.
Right.
So it's not even like a fair thing to say, okay, we're going to include all religious belief systems. No, it seems to me like a special privilege, special Christian privilege that Christians want in this country.
Right. I mean, even if you look at the phrase "In God We Trust," it is explicitly monotheistic. I mean, it leaves out Hindus, Buddhists, Jains. It leaves out all but the big three, basically.
Right. And with the history of this country, the argument would be that it actually leaves out the other two in the Abrahamic religion, and we're it's sticking. So what kind of okay? So that's the goal of your organization, and I think it's a noble goal, because I think personally that we need to stop secularizing and subsidizing religion and religious belief in this country. So what are you guys doing actively right now? You said you were involved with local court cases and sheriff's cases. Can you give us a little input into that?
Sure. So originally we started out just looking for city councils and county councils that were putting up In God We Trust, because that was the core issue. So a group from Bakersfield, California, called In God We Trust America Incorporated had been writing to city councils all over the country, asking them to put up In God We Trust as plaques in their city councils or on the buildings. So part of what I did originally was start writing to the same city councils that I found out that they had been writing to, and asking them to put up E pluribus unum or nothing. Right? Either both or nothing.
Right.
So, and for the most part, I got very little traction doing it that way, which we still do that.
Right.
And then we started reaching out to local groups and having them going to council meetings where they were talking about it, and that got us a lot more reaction, which was far better. In fact, we managed to get 3 councils to put up E pluribus unum.
Oh, really?
With In God We Trust, and we got 1 council to completely put nothing up.
Oh, wow, interesting.
Based on local action.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And that's, it might not sound like it's a big deal, but it is a big deal, even if it's just one city council at this point. I mean, that's how you got to start kind of these grassroots type of activities. So that I was going to ask you, what is your success rate right now? So I guess we got, the city council, you got 1, you got 3 others that are at least sharing, the E pluribus unum with the other one. So, so what else? So you said with city councils, and I know you mentioned before in our conversation you're moving towards sheriff's department. What's going on with that, with the sheriff's departments?
So the sheriff departments have been adding In God We Trust to their bumpers, in either a decal or a straight out bumper sticker. So far, I'm up to 112 that I've been able to track down.
Wow.
Mostly in the South, Texas, Missouri, Florida, a couple in Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, things like that. So during my searches for In God We Trust councils, I came across Bay County, Florida, which was the first big one. So I got a hold of the atheists of Bay County, and I set up with them a protest, which got us quite a bit of news coverage. And I said, well, this has got to be a big thing. So we started offering E pluribus unum stickers to sheriff's departments as well.
Makes sense.
And have sheriff's departments been open to putting E pluribus unum on their cars?
I had 2 that are interested in it.
Okay.
They haven't said yes, but they at least did not send me nasty emails back, which was a plus. Usually we just get ignored.
Really? Not even a reply or nothing? Huh.
Well, I was talking with Larry,
I've sent letters to... Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I was talking with Larry, maybe you should try a new approach and try to provide them with a more edgier, type of like motto. Maybe they'll go for that. I was thinking like America, F yeah. That's a good one. Hakuna Matata. Personally, I think that would go well. One Nation under Canada couldn't go wrong. Get rich or die trying. I think that would be very American.
Right.
Haters gonna hate. I mean, that applies to everything. I like two good ones. I like Mind Your Own Business, which was originally on the minted in the coins in the beginning of American history, and Live Free or Die from the state of New Hampshire.
Live Free or Die, yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, there's things to pick up. It doesn't have to be pluribus unum, which seems a little bit low key. And if people want to put them on their back of their cars, they should have something funny, I guess.
Well, you know, I think, yeah, and those are funny, actually. I like those. But, you know, I think, you know, with the sheriff's office specifically, I think, you know, there's kind of a wink and a nod to this motto. And that's kind of scary to me that police officers are putting this on their cars. Because what does that tell you as far as pulling somebody over with like an atheist sticker in the car? You know,
well, we actually have an example of what happens when the slippery slope. This is the one case where I can actually explain a slippery slope argument in two different ways. So last year in Indiana, a state trooper pulled over a citizen, gave her a warning. I forgot what the warning was for, or something insubstantial, but then said, "Have you heard of Jesus?"
Oh, wow.
And commenced to proselytize to her and gave her a brochure. So, and she said she was incredibly uncomfortable with this. She didn't know what to do.
Sure.
Because she's a Christian, but she didn't go to church and she wasn't, you know, really all that religious. But she said, I didn't know if I could leave or anything because the lights were still on. So, and that's one way it could go bad.
Right.
And in the other way, which we have recently seen, is they're going past "In God We Trust" and going with Bible quotes.
Wow.
In fact, there was one in Alabama. He just put on "Blessed are the peacemakers."
Right.
And FFRF convinced him to remove it.
Okay.
Right.
So that was a plus. And then earlier this week, we had one in southern Texas. And they put on, what was it? "I am the good shepherd," I think is the quote. You know, directly quote from John something or another.
So, and so I guess, you know, the police cars can get away with "In God We Trust" because it is the official motto of the U.S.
Right.
But how can they possibly get away with going further than that and putting biblical passages? You know,
Well, they can't.
They can't.
And that's the thing. FFRF will be contacting the one in southern Texas. It just happened Thursday, or we just found out about it Thursday.
Yeah, and you know, for the watchers who might think it's like sometimes inconsequential, right? There's a better case to show the consequences of this. I think there was a manufacturer of either M16s or some type of assault rifles that were used during the Iraq or Afghanistan war.
Oh, yeah.
And so basically they carved into the weaponry Bibles from the Bible,
John
right?
3:16
Which, to be honest, I think is pretty kick-ass. I think they had like really like militaristic quotes on it, which I thought was really badass. You know, which if people want to carve them on themselves, you know, that's fine. But the point is, it was a government contractor doing that, and that is something that, you know, Muslim extremists could point out to say, look, it's a crusade.
It's a holy war.
Right, it's a holy war, and then that makes, you know, the enemy try to rally troops around official sponsorship of a religious perspective on, you know, on a battle, right? So that's something to consider.
Yeah. There was also, you know, I believe a bullet where a manufacturer was putting bacon in bullets or something like that and then shooting, you know, Muslims. I mean, that's, you know, clearly that's...
Yeah, no, I think that's a sacrilege just on the bacon side. You know, bacon should be consumed.
Right.
Mainly by me.
That's a waste of bacon, yeah.
Right.
So, but anyways, going back, and you know, one of the things I wanted to mention, you know, as far as you know, maybe fighting this battle with the pluribus unum and getting that maybe more widespread and more recognized, because I think most people don't even know, most Americans probably don't even know what a pluribus unum even is, or that it was in fact our de facto, although non-official, original motto that our founding fathers intended. So I belong to an organization called Betway Atheists, and one of our directors, Eric Santiago, who is also with Hispanic Americans Freethinkers, is starting to trying to get a petition going and signatures going to get, and he's also talking to legislatures to get a pluribus unum license plates. Have you heard of
That's
any
cool.
other states or localities trying to do something similar like that?
No, I haven't. You guys are actually the first ones I've heard of that's trying to do that on a license plate.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Look, send me the information for that, and we'll post it on our website and get
Yeah.
you guys some exposure.
Yeah, that'd be great because I think exposure is exactly what this needs is to start
Right.
to get people thinking about why "In God We Trust" is a bad idea as a
Right.
motto and why it can lead to the slippery slope, and also what a pluribus unum is, or we were talking earlier, is having a poll on your through the motto project and say what would you choose as a motto,
Yeah.
and get people to kind of chime in and just something tongue in cheek even, but
Right.
just to see what people would think, what a motto for this country should be.
Yeah.
It's an interesting concept.
Yeah, I stand behind Live Free or Die or Hakuna Matata.
Hakuna Matata, one of those two,
Exactly.
So, what a bit. So your successes so far have been, you're slowly making some inroads, but what have been your major obstacles?
The major obstacles are the fact that it is our motto. In God We Trust. That's the biggest argument that we have, which is why I originally started this concept. I wanted to change the motto so that they can't keep putting this up on public property. The next one is, their standard arguments, we're a Christian nation, we're mostly Christian, majority should rule, you should go away.
Right.
I get that a lot. Right now, our getting exposure is our biggest issue because we're still a very, very small group. There's only 4 of us that are actually working this thing.
Okay,
So,
if I got a question for you. So, how does this translate to the Pledge of Allegiance, right? So, I'd imagine a logical step, right, of this will be saying, well, it's not only the motto, but the Pledge of Allegiance, has the word under God on it, and in fact, on my high school, I went high school in Mexico on an American institution. One of the kids who I felt really proud of, stood up to the principal and said he wouldn't say the Pledge of Allegiance. He had this great deep voice, and he was the one chosen to be able to say it,
Oh, wow.
to lead it. And he refused to say it if he had to use those religious connotations. And I don't know if it got resolved or anything. But the point is, you're placing atheists or non-believers in a position in which they have to, basically to express a belief that they do not have. And it seems to me that, in some sense, it's an American right. It should be a secular, pledge in which which is devoid of any religious connotation.
And
right.
And that is absolutely right, and especially the Pledge of Allegiance, because that's you're pledging your allegiance to a country, okay, which is one thing, but when you're pledging your allegiance to a country under God,
right,
that changes the meaning completely.
Right.
And
it does.
As an atheist and as a pluralistic society that we have and always are going to be, this becomes problematic.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've said it several times. Only the phrase God could separate one nation indivisible. Because if you look where they stuck it into the pledge, it literally separates one nation and indivisible.
Right.
So, which was kind of ironic to me.
Right. Very good point.
And I agree with Robin Williams. He said, I think we should change it to one nation under Canada. I think it's really accurate, straight to the point.
Technically.
It wouldn't change the cadence of it, and I think people will be open on it.
Yeah, one nation under Canada, which is technically true. I mean, we are a
Exactly.
nation under Canada. I mean, it's
Yes.
a very. But so yeah, I mean that's interesting. Now you said you've been, one of your obstacles has been obviously, get a lot of pushback from the Christian community and saying we're a Christian nation, which every atheist who's trying to do anything in this country from a activist perspective gets a lot of pushback from. But what about within the atheist community itself? How are they responding?
Oddly enough, we get a little bit of pushback, probably about 10% of those that in the atheist community. And the biggest one I get is, we've lost the court case, we should just give up. And that's really the most annoying one to me. Because court cases can be changed.
Sure they can.
Right? I mean, Dred Scott decision was changed.
Right. Absolutely.
So we have, it's not the same issue, but a similar concept here where something is wrong, the court's made a wrong decision, and we should stand up and say something about it.
Absolutely, for the people, by the people, right? And so what was this court case that you guys lost? Can you give us a little?
Well, it was a 1970 court case.
Oh, that one.
I don't know. Well, there have been other cases. Michael Newdow has been very. You guys know who Michael Newdow is. He's a lawyer and doctor, and he's been very adamant about challenging God, trust, and under God, which is very. And he's so far hasn't gotten any headway, but he has a new lawsuit out there based upon the Religious Freedom Restoration Act for the in God we trust on money. And it's the same concept as before, but now we have the Religious Freedom Restoration Act.
Interesting.
For him to play with.
So are you guys, is your organization kind of working with him on this at all? Is there any communication, any kind of
there's some communication here and there. He is working directly with the, I think it's the 12 districts that haven't decided. So he's not doing anything in the 9th district, I don't think.
Okay.
But he's hit all the other districts. And I think he has clients in every district, so he should be able to get something done.
That's interesting. Can you give us a little bit of background on the Freedom Restoration Act and what that is and when it was passed? Or
so, Religious Freedom Restoration Act was passed. I don't remember the exact date. I want to say in the 80s.
Okay,
but I could be wrong. But the idea was that the government could not substantially inhibit someone's religious beliefs, and it was mainly done so that Native Americans could do peyote.
I see.
Worthy cross.
And then it's been kind of changed, and that was what Kim Davis decided to try and use, was Religious Freedom Restoration Act concepts that the government was requiring her to do something that was against her religion.
Yeah, I believe that actually that was, I think the act was in 1993. As
okay, 93.
Our producer, just sent us. So we got a very good producer back there who he knows his stuff. So he's. But yeah, so that's interesting. Okay, so now we're going to use that as a way to. I guess Michael Newdow is going to use this as a legal standing to remove, and so that that government is not infringing a religious belief on everybody.
Right. Yeah, that's been part of the problem with the court cases before. Is they would say you don't have standing. This isn't an issue for you.
Right. And I know Michael Newdow has lost some court cases because of standing, I believe.
Right. Yeah, he hasn't been able to get through the courts simply because they say you don't have standing. RFRA gives us standing.
Interesting.
That's
so
good.
Hopefully this will give him standing. And so have you guys haven't thought about maybe kind of joining forces here and helping each other out, or using resources, or?
Well, yeah, I talked to Michael Newdow when he first came out with the concept. I said, I can offer you whatever resources we have, and we can talk to each other. So we do still communicate, but our issues are kind of different.
Okay.
We have different approaches, but we support each other.
Good, because I think that's something that's needed within the atheist community is, and I've noticed a lot of division lately with various things, but I think networking, communicating, working together will definitely help. We should probably get Michael Newdow to come on the show at some point and talk about his success and kind of, because I personally feel that this is a very important thing that we need to move on. I'm sorry, and I've heard, the same argument from other atheists about Michael Newdow as well. And, well, it's not worth fighting. It's we got to pick our battles and this, that, and the other. But if nobody picks up the flag and runs with it, then what's next?
Exactly. I think it's a good fight, right? It's long and tedious, but it's we're clearly on the right, and history will prove us right. And it's just about placing the manpower and the time to hopefully get these problems solved.
Yeah. Oh, we lost Robert Ray, but we'll try to get him back on here in a minute. But this is an interesting conversation because people like Robert Ray and Michael Newdow are fighting a very long uphill battle. And I think that it's important that people support this battle from the atheist community because...
Larry?
Yes, sir.
This is God.
Oh, hello, God. He's calling in, and yes, can we help you, God?
I'm going to show you the miracle of getting Robert Ray back soon on Skype.
Oh, man, it's going to be
Thank
quite a
you.
miracle. I really appreciate you coming in and helping us, God.
No problem. That's what I'm here for.
Okay, wonderful.
You didn't even have to pray this time.
Ah, man, makes it so much easy for me.
But one bit of advice I would like to give you, atheist,
Sure.
is that when you lose a court case, you should do what I have my Christian followers do, which is scream persecution.
Ah.
That way you can rally the troops.
I see.
It's
I
very,
see.
very effective. Very, very effective.
Well, thanks for that insider,
Note to self.
tip there. That's a note to self. We
Glad
really
to help.
appreciate it.
Glad to help.
All right.
Because in the end, you all are going to go to hell anyway.
So you might as well make it interesting, right?
Exactly. And as I have promised, as your Lord and Savior, I have once again got Robert Ray back on.
Oh, man, wonderful.
Thank you, Lord.
So, this is God signing off, and I'll let you heathens get back to digging your hole to hell.
Well, thank you, God, for intervening and bringing Robert Ray back. Well, welcome back, Robert. Sorry about that disconnection, but luckily we had God apparently is on our side today, and got you back on the show. So wonderful. And now I even forgot what we were talking about. God totally, his awe just made me. But anyway, so yeah, I think it's important to have this conversation, as I think I was saying, and I think we should get Michael New down here as well. So let me ask you this, Robert. Do you guys have any, would you guys use any lawsuits? Would you guys be willing to sue anybody, or is this something you would leave up to like the ACLU or FFRF, who takes a lot of these court cases?
Right. So the FFRF definitely has the resources to do that. We don't have a lawyer on staff, so it's virtually impossible for me to do that. But if it came down to it, yes, we would. We would enter litigation on behalf.
Right.
In fact, my content manager may be involved in such a case, but I can't really say much about that.
Sure, right. So, just for our audience, so if they wanted to get involved and help out, where can they go?
Well, they can, of course, go to our website, which is originalmotto.us.
Okay, originalmotto.us. Gotcha.
And then we have a Facebook page, which is facebook.com/originalmotto, or I'm sorry, the original motto. And we also have a Twitter, which is @original_motto.
Good. So what is something right now that your average citizen can do to spread the word? I understand you guys have sort of a campaign about money and stamping.
Yeah. So we do have a stamp that we are providing at cost, by the way, to anybody who wants one. You can go to our website and purchase one. And what it says, E pluribus unum, federal endorsement of a deity, is against the Constitution.
Right.
So the idea is you would stamp over "In God We Trust" on all currency, all paper currency. We don't have a stamp for coins just yet.
I like it. I like the idea. I think it's really smart.
So what are the legal aspects of stamping money? Isn't that a federal offense?
No, it is not a federal offense because the words intent are very important in the statute. So we don't intend to take currency out of circulation. If you do it with the intent of taking currency out of circulation, that is a felony. Or if you do it with the intent to alter the bill in such a way that is no longer
readable. Yeah,
I'd imagine.
Yep, and we had Robert Ray freezing
usable.
Up. There you go. I'm sorry, Robert, you froze up there for a minute. Can you repeat the last part?
So it all comes down to intent by the statute, and that's a very important word.
Right.
So I'm not sure how much of the last part you got.
We got the intent, and I think you were saying something along the lines of until if you deface the money so that you can't.
Oh yeah. So if you deface the money in such a way that it can't be used for its original purpose.
Okay.
So if you take a 10 and turn it into 100, or attempt to turn it into 100, that's a felony counterfeiting.
Gotcha.
Got it.
But since we are using it as a form of political speech, our First Amendment rights protect us on that as well.
Interesting.
So is it just one stamp? What did the stamp say again? I missed that. What does the?
It's E pluribus unum, which goes over the "In God We Trust," and then federal endorsement of a deity is a violation of the First Amendment.
Oh wow! Right. So you can wow, awesome.
Yeah.
So people can go on your website and purchase this.
I might do it myself. Yeah, it's actually pretty fun.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think you failed to mention is on your website I was saying that you can write your congressman, and I just finished reading a book called The Influence Game, and basically as not a sort of like low key as it might be to try to write to your congressman, if you personalize an email and you make the effort, staffers, you do have to read it. So if we get enough people, it's a good thing to do. So if you can go to their website and fill the, the information, that would be of some help.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, we have a link there to our petition to Congress site. We wrote up a form letter to go to Congress. So you can go to our website, which will take you to our petition to Congress site.
Right.
Good. Yeah, because that's what one of the things I was going to suggest is that, you have some a good, help on your website for people to lobby Congress, because that's also very important. Send letters, what to say, kind of points to hit, what not to say even, to make it more successful. So that's great. On your website, what other, so, you have a lot of information on your website. What other, do you guys have anything else that's useful for people that they can go and learn more about this?
Yeah, we have a history section, which gives basically the history of E pluribus unum all the way up into the change of 1956.
Awesome.
And then we also have a blog site, which my content manager manages most of it, which will keep you up to date with news. We try to post something every 3 or 4 days, or if something huge happens, we will definitely post it there.
Right. So the big thing right now, I guess, is the sheriff's office. I've been reading a lot on the news about this, by the way. So I'm glad that there's you guys that are doing something about that and contacting these police departments and councils. Is there anything else you guys are doing right now actively to try to, besides the money stamping and all that stuff, or this is your focus right now?
Yeah, this is our focus right now. I mean, we oppose it wherever we find it. If we find it on a fire department piece of equipment, we're going to oppose it there.
Wow.
All right.
And what we do is we encourage people on social media to go to the Facebook pages of these agencies and let your voices be known there, because that is still protected speech.
Well, that's a great way to do that. And have police departments or city councils or fire, whatever, when people do go there and demand that, or discuss on Facebook or whatever, have you noticed any comments being deleted or people just ignoring it? Or
yeah, there's been a few cases where comments have been deleted and people have been blocked from Facebook pages. I myself am blocked from probably 7 government agencies, both on Facebook and Twitter.
And is that, being government agencies, isn't this a violation of free speech?
We believe it is, and based upon some court precedents, there was a Hawaii case a couple years ago where an atheist, or not an atheist, but someone who dissented with the police department just settled for $31,000 on this exact same thing, Facebook deleting messages.
From a government, official government?
From the Kauai Police Department, I think was what it was.
Wow. That's good to know. So that does set a legal precedent.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, if it's private, and if it's like my private Facebook or a private business, that's one thing. They can do whatever they want. But that's the thing. From a government agency, I think that would definitely violate some kind of free speech.
Yeah, I could see that.
Right.
I could see that being a good court case to take and win. But I think partly I think it's a good money making idea. But on the other hand, like in trying to getting accomplished this type of policy, I think it's better to try to talk to those people, call somebody on the phone and say, I know you deleted me on Facebook, but this is a topic that is important to us because of this and this and reason. I know it doesn't mean much to you, but we think it's it's a step in the right direction of the type of society we want to look at, and just try to convince people and be nice about it, because I could see people getting pissed off by this really easily.
Yeah, I think also it's important to build a network of people within each locality, each state, which is a huge undertaking. Obviously, it's almost like a political campaign, right? But at least on a statewide level, you can have people who are active within each state and who actually pay attention and focus. And maybe that's something, I don't know if you guys have been thinking about that or not.
Actually, we have that.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yes, we do. So we have 51 Facebook groups.
Oh, wonderful.
So we have, right now they're called In God We Do Not All Trust, but we're working on renaming them, and it's probably going to be renamed to E pluribus unum.
Okay.
But we're working on that. One for each state, plus one for the United States.
Oh, man. Okay, wonderful. Yeah, I was wondering why the 51. So Oh, good. I have to check out the Virginia one. I didn't know that was an issue. So
Yeah, I'll send you a link. Right now, there's like, with the exception of Missouri and Florida, there's like maybe 2 members in each state.
Sure.
I'm one of them. So
Well,
we don't have a huge issue in like New Hampshire, so no one even knows about it.
Right. So that's good. Yeah, because that's, as again, I think here in Virginia, we're going to try to, pursue this through license plates, which is a great way to advertise it,
Right.
If we get enough people, we got to get, so one of the challenges here in Virginia is to get one of these vanity license plates with a pluribus unum or whatever the case may be. You have to have a 501c3 to sponsor it. And then you have to have somebody from the legislature to then sponsor the legislation. So the key thing is to find a supportive lawmaker in your state.
Right.
At least in Virginia, that's how we do it. So that's the challenge. And then you got to have at least 400 people, at least a minimum of 400 people to commit to buying these license plates. And so, it can be a little challenge, and it takes a lot of work to hunt down legislatures because half of them don't want to bother. They don't want to be bothered, or with things like this. It causes controversy, and they don't want to deal with it. So it really requires a lot of groundwork and a lot of effort. But I think it can happen. So we're going to really pursue this here, and if we could get your guys' support, that'd be awesome.
Absolutely, yeah, I'll support that.
All right, so we're almost running out of time. I got one question I want to ask you before you go. If you could take a motto that is not a pluribus unum to be the motto of the country, what would it be? Because I figure you probably have thought about this.
Actually, I think liberty before death is actually a good one.
Good. Liberty before death, that's a good one.
Yeah. Huh. There's probably more. I haven't really put a lot of thought into that because my focus has been e pluribus unum.
Right.
So, but I would be willing to take the English version of out of many one.
Yeah.
Because I think it portrays what America is about. We are a melting pot of many diverse cultures.
We are a very pluralistic society, and we were. I mean, the whole point of the United States is pluralism. So
Right.
I mean, we had immigrants come in here. We've had. I mean, it's a country based off of that, and I think a pluribus unum out of many one is a great encompassing, motto, and I think I wish you luck.
Yeah.
So
Thank you. Thank you.
And it's good luck with everything. I really do appreciate you coming on the show to talk about it, and we're about out of time here, so we got about 10 seconds left. But thank you for coming on the show. Maybe we'll get you back on here sometime soon, so to continue the conversation and maybe any more successes. So we'll keep in touch.
Okay.
So thanks for coming, and we'll chat with you later.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for fighting the good fight.
Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for supporting us.
And I want to thank all our audience for watching today, and thanks a lot.